Hi guys, how are you all doing? Welcome back to another video on the channel. As you can see, I'm here at the Newcastle United training ground this morning for Eddie Howe's news conference. We've got some big injury news to come your way, which I'm sure you can probably see in the headline. I'm going to get into the details of that and some fresh information in the video in a second. But if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe, leave your comments below, give me a thumbs up, all that jazz. And nice to see you all. It's a bit chilly here today at the training ground. We've got a storm coming this afternoon, so I thought I'd pop out quickly before the wind gets up and deliver this video to you guys. So firstly, hello, hope you're all doing well. Not as well as Yoane Wissa this morning, sadly. Eddie Howe said towards the end of his news conference today that Wissa has, he didn't say in as many words that he's had a setback, but he said his return date from his knee injury has been pushed back a little bit. Now, this isn't a great surprise to me. I initially heard that his injury was worse than what we were being told. Of course, we were originally told it was 4 to 5 weeks, and then I think Eddie then mentioned in a press conference a week or so later they thought it would be 6 weeks. Eddie Howe said this morning it's 8 weeks instead of 6. It's more likely 8 weeks rather than 6, which, you know, it is only another couple of weeks, but it is a blow because Newcastle, as you guys know more than anyone, are so short on the striker front at the moment, and Yoane Wissa is a player that they desperately need as an option to Nick Voltemada. So initially the feeling or the word was that he would be back for the Brighton game on the first game back after the international break. That was the target set by Eddie Howe. But now it's looking like he won't be back, according to this additional 3 to 4 weeks or 2 weeks, however you view the initial first injury. It's now looking like he won't be back until the beginning of November. So West Ham on the 2nd of November, Athletic Bilbao that midweek at home, and then Brentford away, his old club Brentford away the following Sunday. So I mean, if he's back for West Ham, that's 5 games from now. If he's back for Brentford, that's another 7 games. So it just seems a long time to be missing a player that, as I say, Newcastle desperately need, and someone who can who would be in the team right now and would be allowing Nick Voltemada to come off the bench and split the load, share the load, and just make things a little bit easier for Newcastle in an attacking third. Look, without doubt, it's been a massive blow to the club. Remember, Wissa should I say, I'm getting my Wissas and my Voltemadas mixed up. Remember, Wissa has yet to kick a ball for Newcastle, either in a game or a training session, because he came in, he signed on deadline day, literally in the dying seconds of deadline day. That deal was pushed through with 30 seconds to go. He'd forgot to fill in a form, and people at the club and his agent were running about around the training ground next door trying to get him to fill out the e-document to make sure that transfer went through, which would have been an incredible failure at the end of the transfer window, given that Newcastle had put so much time and effort and of course money into signing Yoane Wissa from Brentford. £55 million, 50 plus £5 million in add-ons. It wasn't a deal that PIF were comfortable with. They did not want to be spending that sort of amount of money on a soon to be 29-year-old. He's 29 now. I think he turned 29 on the 2nd or 3rd of September. They did not want to be spending that sort of money on a player that there's not really going to be any resale on. He's going to be 33 by the time his deal ends. But that just showed how desperate Newcastle were at that time, that they needed to throw the money at Brentford to make it happen, because they knew Alexander Isak was going, and Wissa was the player to come in and essentially be his replacement. It just, for me, it just summed up and was indicative of Newcastle's transfer window, that the player they put so much time and effort and resources and stress into signing, and finally got it over the line to the relief of everyone involved at the club on deadline day, for him to then be injured without having played a match, kicked a ball, been involved in training. It's a really bad situation. And as I say, the initial diagnosis was 4 to 5 weeks. I was hearing in the background that it could be longer than that, and Eddie Howe has confirmed this morning that it is a longer injury than what the initial brief was, should I say, and he's saying it's looking more like an 8-week injury. Now, I wouldn't be surprised If it's a little bit longer than that, we know what it's like with knee injuries. Like, you can't rush players back. It's the last thing you want to do. Look, the most important thing to say here is it's not an ACL. I think it's probably similar to what like Tino Livramento's done. And Eddie Howe confirmed this morning that Livramento confirmed our story actually from Wednesday, our exclusive story, that Livramento is missing for the next 6 to 8 weeks. He says it'll be 8 weeks until he plays again, and that with a knee impact injury. Of course, that injury was suffered against Arsenal on Sunday, jumping for a header with William Saliba, and I think it sounds like a similar situation to Livramento. Now everyone's looking at Livramento things saying, oh, it's good news because everyone was fearing it was worse. You're looking at the Wissa situation and saying, oh, this is bad news because everyone thought it was better. But the way Eddie's talking this morning, if it is an 8-week injury, that would bring him back the week of West Ham, Bilbao and Brentford, 3 games in 7 days. Which one we don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another couple of weeks bolted on to the end of that, given the fact that it's a knee injury and the bits and pieces that I've heard. Now, what does that mean? AFCON coming up. Of course, I think its first African Cup of Nations match is a couple of days before Christmas. I think they fly out there. They'd fly out there after the derby match, the Newcastle Sunderland match, on the weekend of the 13th. So he wouldn't be playing a lot of football before AFCON came around. I would suggest that might bring about its own problem. Will Newcastle be content or happy allowing Yoane Wissa, who's just recovering from a knee problem, to go out and play in the African Cup of Nations, knowing that it was playing for DR Congo that he injured the knee in September, just days after signing here? I'm not so sure that would be the case, and it would be up to Wissa, I think, and the club together to decide what the best course of action is. Now, what I'm hearing from sources close to the player is that his priority is Newcastle United, and he feels he wants to show what he's about, and he is frustrated that this has happened at that time, and his priority will be Newcastle. However, if he's fit and firing, can Newcastle stop him going and playing in the African Cup of Nations? Probably not. So it's going to be really intriguing to see how that injury plays out in terms of the timescale, when he's back fully fit. Will they call him up? Will Newcastle try to stop him going? How will Wissa feel in the whole situation? But I can see a bit of a problem there on the horizon, and let's see what develops. What doesn't help is Newcastle currently only have Voltemada and Osula, and look, Osula's doing better, and I feel bad because a couple of times on this channel I've almost not described him as an out-and-out striker or as an option up front, but look, Eddie's been kind of forced to give him more minutes, and he did well coming off the bench in midweek, didn't he? Looks like he's improved. He scored a couple of goals against Bradford last week. Of course, he scored against Liverpool as well, and it looks like he is improving a bit. I have to say, he is improving a bit. Look, I don't think he's quite up to scratch yet for being a Premier League striker, but at least he's someone at the moment who looks like he can come off the bench and run the channels and give Newcastle a bit of an outlet, which I have to say is more than it was looking like towards the end of the season. So look, the load is pretty much on Nick Voltemada at the moment. He looks like he's getting better with it. I asked Eddie a question at his press conference this morning. Is he fit enough? Is he strong enough to play 3 games in 7 days? I.e., can he start against Nottingham Forest on Sunday, given the fact he started against Arsenal last Sunday and then in midweek over in Brussels? And Eddie suggested pretty much that yes, he should be in a position to start on Sunday. So that's a real boost, a real fillip for the club, that Voltemada is getting stronger and he's getting used to the rigours of the Premier League, and he can play 3 games in 7 days. I think Eddie will just ask the players to go again on Sunday, due to the fact that it's the international break just afterwards, and I think for him to be resting players ahead of the international break, it doesn't make sense. So I think Voltemada again will lead the line, and I think he'll try to keep it as close as possible to the team that played so well over in Brussels in midweek, and try and keep that feel-good factor going against a Nottingham Forest side really struggling, with a manager who, after just 23 days in charge, their own fans are asking to be sacked. It's an incredible situation over at the City Ground, and I think that'll add an extra spice to Sunday Sunday's game. In better news, it's taken me a while to get there, but in better news, for any of you guys still watching, Jacob Ramsey will be back and in the squad on Sunday to play Nottingham Forest earlier than expected. Of course, he had that ankle injury picked up in the challenge from former Newcastle United midfielder Sean Longstaff at the end of August, but he's recovered from that quicker, and Eddie said, you know, a little bit of a softener to the Wissa situation. He will be back and in the squad to play Nottingham Forest, and I would imagine he'll be on the bench. So that's good news that he's back, but the Wissa situation is not a good one, and it feels very much like Big Nick is going to have to carry the load until Wissa is back, whenever that may be. Eddie's now suggesting 8 weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a couple more weeks bolted onto that, but whatever it is, it's a blow. It is a blow, because although it only is an extra few weeks than what was initially feared, there's a lot of games in that time, especially in October, November. You know, Newcastle are playing weekend, midweek, and you really need more strikers than what they've got to deal with that number of games. So real blow that, but the good thing is the players look to have turned a corner and things look on the up, and it feels like things were beginning to click against Union SG in midweek, and hopefully a win going in on Sunday against Forest just sends you guys off on a real kind of high point and gets everyone looking forward to the return after the international break. So that's it from me. Sorry it's all just injury news today. There's plenty more said on Elliot Anderson, but Eddie said he'd love to have him back here one time. He thinks he could be an England captain, etc, etc, but this isn't the time for that. You want to know news, you want to know stuff you don't know, and that is the situation regarding Ramsey and Wissa as Newcastle look to try and get the squad back in a strong enough state to deal with the amount of games coming their way. Okay guys, leave your comments below. Really awkward situation this regarding Wissa. Keen to hear what you guys think. Okay guys, speak soon, take care.